Some video games are a perfect fit for the console they're on, but not all games and their consoles are a match made in heaven. Some games should have been released on a different platform altogether. In this video, we'll discuss 10 video games that could have been better on another console. And please give us a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Now let's get started. Bloodborne. For gamers who aren't afraid to take a whole lot of punishment for every inch of progress, Bloodborne is a godsend. It takes place in a bleak Victorian city filled with things that go bump in the night. Like the Souls games from the same developer, Bloodborne plants players in a relentlessly savage world and has them fight for their life through packs of enemies and towering bosses. The entire game is an uphill battle, partly because there's no shield to block attacks. Combat is all about being fast on your feet, dodging, and staggering opponents within split-second windows of opportunity. Unfortunately, unless you have a PlayStation 4, you won't be playing Bloodborne anytime soon. While PC and Xbox players have been able to enjoy the developer's other recent games, Bloodborne remains locked in the PS4 ecosystem, thanks to an exclusivity deal with Sony that's unlikely to lapse soon, if ever. It's too bad, because Bloodborne would be every bit as great on other platforms as it is on PS4. And for fans of these kinds of games, being blocked from playing Bloodborne just because you're not a PS4 owner seems kind of unfair. Undertale. Undertale is a surprisingly unique role-playing game. With simple 8-bit graphics and a mundane story, it's an easy game to underestimate. But once it starts subverting all the tropes that you've come to expect from RPGs, it becomes clear Undertale has much more going on than you might have thought. It's hilarious, touching, and utterly unforgettable. The problem is, Undertale is only available on computers. It's not one of those games that require a pricey gaming PC to run either. It could probably run on a toaster if your toaster had a screen, which means it could easily be ported to any other system under the sun. Wouldn't it be better for RPG fans if Undertale were more widely available? Bring it to Nintendo Switch, bring it to PS4, Xbox One, load it on phones and tablets. If they can put it on a toaster, let's do that too. This is a game that deserves to be played by as many people as possible, not just PC gamers. Maybe Undertale will make its way to other systems eventually. If it does, the world will be a better place. Persona 5. A 100-hour role-playing game on console? Who has the time for that? As handheld gaming devices like the 3DS and PS Vita have proved, RPGs and handhelds go together like peanut butter and jelly. There's just something about playing a meaty, story-driven RPG on a handheld gaming system that feels right, and there's no RPG more deserving of being freed from your TV set than Persona 5. This ultra-stylish game centers around a group of students as they attend class, participate in extracurriculars, hook up with one another, and oh yeah, fight monsters in the palace realm. All of this stuff takes a whole lot of time. Time you could be spending away from your television, if only the game were available on Nintendo Switch. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in. Despite that the best version of its predecessor is a handheld game, Persona 5 remains a console-only experience. So call your congressman, file a complaint with the developer, and start a crowdfunding campaign to get Persona 5 on Nintendo Switch. It's the only way we'd be able to take this excellent game with us on the go. Resident Evil 7. Despite that headsets like the Oculus Rift, HTC Vive, and PlayStation VR have been on the market for a while now, virtual reality remains a new medium. Because of that, game makers are still in the experimenting phase when it comes to making VR games. That's why most VR games tend to be shorter affairs rather than big AAA experiences. The one game that bucks this trend is Resident Evil 7, an incredibly creepy first-person horror game that works great on a screen but works even better in VR. The only problem is that this version of the game is only available on PlayStation VR. That means HTC Vive and Oculus Rift owners are left out in the cold. They can still play the game on a monitor, but they can't strap on their headset and virtually enter this terrifying world. That's a shame, because VR is by far the best way to play this modern masterpiece of survival horror. Once you enter the game world on PlayStation VR, you won't want to play it any other way. There's just something about having monsters actually towering over you that can't be recreated when you're sitting in front of a regular screen. Capcom, do us a solid and set this game free. Advance Wars. When it comes to handheld strategy games, Nintendo has clearly chosen to focus on the Fire Emblem series over Advance Wars. That's too bad, because the Advance Wars games were fantastic. They put players in charge of troops, tanks, and aircraft and had them go to war against well-equipped enemies. In some ways, the games worked well on Game Boy Advance and Nintendo DS, but the battles could be drawn-out affairs that would tick on past the hour mark. Many people play their handheld systems on the go, on the train, on the bus, and on the toilet. In those situations, extended battles are less than than ideal. If you have to stop playing suddenly, you're likely to forget your battle strategy by the next time you pick up your device. The solution? Have Nintendo resurrect the Advance Wars series on Nintendo Switch. That way, handheld fans could take it on the go, while others could spend hours in front of a TV organizing a deep tactical battle strategy. Granted, a few other games in the Wars series came out on Nintendo consoles, but there was something special about Advance Wars. It needs to come back, and the Switch is the perfect console for it. Stardew Valley. If you think that the idea of running a fictional farm and living the small town life sounds like a grand old time, you're gonna want to play Stardew Valley. This game oozes charm from every pixel. It takes what the Harvest Moon series started and improves just about every aspect, from planting seeds, harvesting crops, to wooing the boy or girl next door. It's a game that always has something for you to do every time you hop into its world, which would make it a seriously killer game to play on phones and tablets. Think about it. When you're sitting on your couch half watching a TV show, you can pull out your phone and plant some wheat. When you're sitting in a waiting room, you can hop into Stardew Valley and catch some fish. You'd never be bored again. Sure, the game is coming to the Switch, so you'll have the opportunity to take it with you on the go, but we don't always have our Switches on hand. As for our phones, there's no more popular gaming platform on the planet, and we never leave home without them. Super Mario 3D World. It's not hard to make the case that Super Mario 3D World is the best platformer of the past few years. Playing the game is like going to a carnival. It's colorful, filled with creative ideas, and you can play it with up to 3 friends at once. The difficulty curve is just right. It doesn't feel like a walk in the park, nor does it ever feel overly challenging either. There's just one problem. Super Mario 3D World is only available on the Wii U, a console whose most notable quality is that hardly anyone bought it. The Wii U sold around 13 million units, making it by far the worst-selling main console in Nintendo history. By comparison, the original Wii sold over 100 million units, which makes it a shame that one of the best platformers of the decade is stranded on a console hardly anyone owns. What console would be a better fit? Close your eyes and point to one. This game would be better on any other console on the market. It's possible Nintendo will bring it to the Switch one day, just as it's doing with Mario Kart and Smash Bros. If so, it'll get another shot at the popularity it deserves. Final Fantasy XV. To play Final Fantasy XV is to play a game that could have used a little more time in development, which is funny considering the game was announced nearly 10 years before it finally hit store shelves. But seriously, Final Fantasy XV could have used more work. Although it successfully injects a heap of new ideas into this aging RPG franchise, it has a number of rough edges and shortcomings that could have used more work. Its side quests are as endless as they are repetitive. The story is a mess. Developer Square Enix even reworked an entire chapter of the game after fans complained about it. Still, Final Fantasy XV is a great game that would be even better with a little more time in the oven. The ideal version of it probably could have come out next console generation, after its makers would have had more time to tweak what needs tweaked and fix what doesn't work. Since that's not going to happen, maybe they can use what they learned on this game to make Final Fantasy XVI the game 15 could have been. Monster Hunter. It's kind of a cliche, but the Monster Hunter games are huge in Japan. This series puts you in epic battles against a wide variety of enormous enemies. When you beat them, they drop all kinds of loot you can use to make things, such as powerful new weapons and armor. These games are addictive and compact with hundreds of hours of content for anyone willing to put in the time. But lately, most of the Monster Hunter games have been trapped on the Nintendo 3DS, creating several problems. For one thing, the camera is difficult to control if you have one of the 3DS models that doesn't come with a nub. Another problem is that the 3DS isn't exactly known for its robust online capabilities. Wouldn't these Monster Hunter games make more sense on consoles? On consoles, you wouldn't have to mess with friend codes or get a hand cramp as you struggle to see what's going on. Consoles also pack more power than the 3DS, so the monsters' environments wouldn't have to be divided up into separate sections. Just something to think about going forward, Capcom. Maybe let's bring the Monster Hunter series to a platform that could make it big in the Western world too. Metal Gear Solid 3. Metal Gear Solid creator Hideo Kojima is one of the most ambitious game makers on this blue planet. His games are cinematic grandeur and epic scope, and they achieve those qualities with astounding regularity. PlayStation 2's Metal Gear Solid 3 brings players back to the Cold War era. It lets them sneak through enemy territory as Big Boss, taking down bad guys and sniping old men in the jungle. When it came out, Metal Gear Solid 3 was a revelation, one of the best games ever made. It took the great things the previous 2 installments did and built on them in brilliant ways. But when you go back and play it now, now, you'll notice the controls are a major hurdle. The game holds up, but the controls don't. In the years since it came out, game makers have discovered a lot of control conveniences that didn't exist in 2004. Just play the latest Metal Gear Solid to feel the difference. So, if Metal Gear Solid 3 came out on PS4 now that developers have learned how to put excellent controls in tactical espionage games, it would be much improved. Sure, it might break the space-time continuum, but it might be worth it. So, what do you think of our picks for games? Do you have any additional games we missed? Let us know in the comments section below. And be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our great video content in the future. Thanks for watching!